live to Washington, D.C., where the Intergovernmental Group of 24 is holding a press conference, and Nigeria's Finance Minister and Coordinating Minister of Economy, Wale Edun, is participating. Let's join in.
And that's why the interest rates can't come down. The governor of Central Bank in Nigeria, in the context of high inflation, is continue with monetary tightening, and that is the orthodoxy of the day, and it's one which he is following. Thank you.
And Ms. Maroney on Argentina.
Yeah, thank you. Is it on? Yeah. Is it on?
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
that's perfect. So going back to the question on Argentina, just as an important framework, G24 has been working on the need for emerging market development and developing economies to try to put their economies in the right place. Minister mentioned the need for the international financial organizations to give liquidity or to provide accessible liquidity for countries like Argentina and others to be able to get back on our feet. For the government of Argentina, it's really relevant. We do think that there is a need for a fiscal anchor on that sense. What happened with the education law had to do with the idea to keep the budget where it has to be, and it has not to do with kind of cutting education. It has to do with evaluating costs and expenditure in the right way. So I think that's...
Thank you so much. Going back to the floor. Gentleman in the fourth row, please.
Hello, my name is Adam B. Sudi. I'm with Politico here in Washington. Just turning to the U.S. election, obviously we've seen the U.S. policy on trade change to a more protectionist stance. We've seen a lot of industrial policy. Regardless of who wins the election, how do you see the U.S. involvement with multilateral organizations represented here and the WTO, and what is the impact of maybe a less engaged, more transactional U.S. on the group of countries, the G24 and your own? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, and then maybe Secretary would like to respond. Or
yeah. Well, we are concerned that there will be a setback in multilateralism, particularly in trade as well. And we know that the driver of global growth is more trade. So that is a concern. In the Philippines, we count on our relationship with the United States to do maybe more outshoring to the Philippines, and hopefully that could be done also with other members of the G24. Yeah.
And if I can add, if you look at a communique, the last paragraph there actually addresses this issue. And it's not just about the US, it's also about different countries all over the world implementing protectionist policies. And we've seen the impact of that in sectors that contribute more to growth and development in many countries. So where do we go from there? What we're calling on is for the WTO to become the center of trade discussions, trade negotiations, and for the World Bank and the IMF to rise up to a much more multilaterally engaged organizations that will be able to at least influence the kind of policies that countries take one way or the other. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go online with the question I just received from Sophie Frasan, New First Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, a member of G24, is currently making attempts to emerge out of the economic crisis. What can you tell us about the G24 position to support countries like Sri Lanka, and also for the island nation to secure financial facilities at reasonable condition? Mr. Chair, and maybe Ayabo? Yeah.
Yes. I will say that Sri Lanka has come a long way from where it was 2 years ago. The last IMF Article 4 assessment does show that growth is picking up, the fiscal buffers are coming up, and also import duties are rising. So that indicates that the country is making some recovery. As for the position that the G24 takes on this issue, the way it affects Sri Lanka most is on the debt sustainability issue. And so what we are calling for is that countries, especially middle-income countries, should also have a framework, a forum where they can negotiate with their debtors. As it is now, the common framework only works for low-income countries. Only low-income countries are part of the common framework, but middle-income countries can be part of another forum called the Global Sovereign Debt Resolution Roundtable, which is not really an association, an organization that delivers any form of debt relief. It just fosters common understanding. So that's what we're calling for. We want very timely, very comprehensive reduction in debt for countries, and also for both middle and low-income countries to qualify. So that is where I see it working out. If things work out and the discussion in that area picks up quite fastly, then we could see the likes of Sri Lanka and maybe even Lebanon and a few other countries benefiting from that. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to the floor. Maybe I'll take one question from the side or come back to you. I've seen your hand. Sir, on the third row. Sorry, fourth row, yes.
Hi there, Matthew Kendrick with G0 here in Washington, D.C. Mr. Rector, you said that developing countries would be hit by the hardest by any slowdown. I'm going to ask an uncomfortable question, but the U.S. election has two very different results, one of which would likely be much more inflationary and lead to more trade tensions. Could each of you tell me a little bit about how your economies are preparing or thinking about the possibility of a Trump victory and associated trade tensions and inflationary pressures that could be a headwind to growth?
Mr. Rector, or, yeah, please.
Well, in the Philippines, we do have a relationship with the United States. We have a mutual defense treaty, and we're hoping to leverage that relationship so that we don't get much affected. We understand that many U.S. companies are also interested to invest in the Philippines. We do have a partnership also, the U.S., Japan, and the Philippines with regard to our security arrangements. And we expect more investments to take place also in the Philippines.
Anything to add from Mr. Adun and Ms. Maroney?
Thank you. I think the issues and that we are contending with in Africa mean that we in many ways we're bystanders to this all-important election. Yes, we do have the African Growth and Opportunities Act, which tries to open up the U.S. market to African manufactured products. I don't think that will be affected in any way by the results of this election. And generally, what we are finding is that at this particular time, the economies of trade generally, there's a reversal of globalization of trade. There's a move to protectionism in these countries. There's onboarding of production, and all these things tend to work against the developing world's ability to benefit from expanding trade, and thereby use that opportunity for investment, for growth, and for job creation and poverty reduction. So overall, I think that we are not that affected specifically, but that in general, we continue to ask for an improved global financial architecture that provides us with more concessional funding at scale, particularly for those countries that, as I said earlier, are undertaking the macroeconomic reforms that everybody agrees are sensible and will lead to better lives for their people. Thank you.
Anything to add from the macro broad perspective?
Yeah, just very briefly, I think what was just mentioned by both ministers is it's the right sentiment in the emerging markets. We do think, or at least for Argentina, this is the U.S. is a strategic partner, and whatever the elections go.
All right, we've been listening live on the IMF World Bank G24 press briefing, live from Washington, D.C. That's it on the Global Business Report for today, but stay tuned to Arise News from all of us. Many thanks for your company. I am Abby Olawi.